In a market where great engineers are harder to find than capital, the real differentiator isn't your product, it's your people. Hello and welcome to the Boostara podcast. I am your host, James. On the Boostara podcast, we speak to leaders in business and uncover the truths and insights from their amazing experiences. At Boostara, we help businesses boost growth, cut costs, and gain better business insights. If you would like to learn more about how we can help you, type the word growth into the comments below, and I will be sure to reach out. Today, we are very fortunate to be joined by Tan, founder of Initium Talent. Hello, Tan.
How you doing, James, today? You okay?
I'm very good. Yourself?
Yeah, not too bad, thank you. Not too bad.
Well, first question, where are you calling us from?
Yeah, so I'm based up in Manchester, rainy Manchester. So yeah, I've been based here for pretty much my whole life now. So yeah.
Brilliant, brilliant. Yeah, we're just across from the Pennines
Yeah,
from
just
each
over
other.
the ridge.
But brilliant. I mean, for those of our listeners that are not familiar with yourself, Tan, could you give us a little bit of an overview of who you are and your journey to where you are today with Initium Talent?
Of course, yeah. So yeah, like I said, born and bred in Manchester. My background, predominantly in terms of my academic studies, is in science. But then early on in my career, pivoted into sales. And sales is where I really got my foothold, something that I really enjoyed and had a lot of passion in. So selling things, selling products, selling services, something that I've been doing for a while now. And yeah, it's ever more so in a more digitalized space. So my experience is a lot in the construction area, and it's worldwide known as one of the most sort of traditional areas. So it's very, very little digitalization when it comes to the construction space. So what I was selling at the time, when I was working like sort of straight out of uni, was more so digital focused products in the construction space, and just really trying to drag the construction industry into the 21st century, which is obviously a little bit more difficult than it sounds with the sort of traditional sort of aspects and values that they have in that sector. But yeah, with Initium Talent, it kind of happened by accident almost. Wasn't something that was really planned. It wasn't something that I really had much focus on at the time. Essentially, when I was at university, I had a friend who was there with me who had moved over from the States. He was from sort of Los Angeles area, and he was at the University of Manchester studying alongside me. We were doing so alongside my course, one of our modules, it crossed over where we would learn a lot about coding and a lot about sort of data entry and things like that. And when he moved back over to the States, I saw on LinkedIn came up that he was a co-founder of a startup over there, and they had just got or just received some VC backing, so a lot of funding to sort of kickstart what they were building. So I reached out to him just as a general catch up, being like, "Oh, looks amazing at what you're doing. Tell me a little bit more about it." We had a little bit of a chat. He was just talking about what he was building and why he was doing it, and sort of the process and the environment he was in. I was just obviously super excited, and sort of a different world to what I was sort of used to. So just really excited for him and what they were building. And at the time, obviously, he was talking to me about some of the requirements he had. At the time, obviously, he was looking to expand his team, get a few people on board just to help him build the product that he had envisioned in his head. And that what the some of the investors and stakeholders were sort of waiting for further investment. So obviously, it was a big thing for him. He wanted to continue that flow of investment and that money, and he needed people to help him do that. We all know that with any company, it's the people involved that help you build that. Having a great team around you is pretty much the key to success when it comes to building something that's really going to change whatever sector or landscape you're in. And yeah, so at the time, I had a few contacts. I have a lot of family and friends that are in sort of the back-end engineer space when it comes to tech, software engineers, machine learning, ML ops, that sort of thing. So I reached out to a few people and essentially helped him fill in the first few vacancies that he had. And obviously it was a huge help to him. And he mentioned that, this is something that I could look into as offering as a service. And that's really when Initium Talent was born in terms of the concept. And yeah, that sort of gave me the idea to pursue it a little bit further. And with these founders based in around the sort of San Francisco area, a lot of them talk to each other. They're all building separate products, but a lot of them are in sort of these inner circles. And that really helped me in terms of networking, which is another key thing when it comes to especially early doors, which it is for myself. He provided me with some contacts and said, "Oh, these guys are in a similar space to I am. Could you do something similar for them?" And that's
Yeah.
essentially when I put everything sort of on pause and built Initium Talent from the ground up, got something a little bit more professional, a little bit more sort of trusted, and went from there really. And it's never really looked back since. So yeah, it kind of happened by accident, more of a coincidence of anything. But it was more so providing a service that was a bit of a gap in terms of where founders were at, and something that's really exciting. The initial thing that got me was listening to my friend talk about what he was building and just going
Yeah.
from there, really. So that's essentially where it started. And yeah, we've not really looked back since.
Amazing. Really, really interesting. And I had a conversation with someone just this morning actually who was saying, in their mind, SaaS is kind of dead because
Mm,
it's become oversaturated.
mm,
The engineering and the creating of products is becoming so much easier with vibe coding,
mm.
etc. Right? There's not much is needed. I guess in the time that you've spent within this sector, what have you seen change or develop? I mean, I suppose would you agree with that statement, or is it a bit more nuanced than most would think?
No, 100%. I do agree with that sort of. I think there's obviously there's a place for it and a space for it, but like the that conversation that you've had, they mentioned it is quite saturated, and a lot of what needs to be done has already been done or covered by a lot of the bigger players. And I also think it's more so part of a not a bigger issue, but a bigger precedence in terms of the sort of tech space community in as a whole, especially with AI. Obviously, talking about AI, everyone gets scared. You know, they're going to replace you, you're going to lose your job, AI is going to take over, and that sort of thing. And I don't necessarily agree with that. I think AI is going to boost a lot of human productivity. And I think if you look back in history, whenever we've made an advancement in technology, fair enough, it's not as advanced as AI has been, but any advancement, whether it's going from the typewriter to a computer, no one ever really loses a job. We just end up doing more than we could before,
Yeah.
processing at a quicker speed and building things that are better and bigger. And I think that's just what AI is going to be for us. I think it's going to accelerate a lot of what humans are going to be building. And at
Yeah.
the end of the day, humans buy from humans. Whenever these founders are pitching to investors, it's not an AI bot that does the pitch for them. It's always a human that has to go in, and you get a sense of their energy and their goal and their enthusiasm, and that's a key player when it comes to these products. And yeah, I think with AI, I think it's going to, like you mentioned, with vibe coding, I think that just allows for people to build more and have more sort of access to sort of better products and better visualizations of what they can achieve. And I think that's the sort of key frame we're going to at now. I don't think, like you mentioned, SaaS is a little bit dead because, like you mentioned, you can vibe code something that's unique to exactly what you need. It's tailored to exactly whatever sector or what field you're in. And that's a huge sort of game changer when it comes to differentiating yourself as a business and operating as a business. So I think, yeah, with this new precedent of AI and all the sort of advancements that are coming through, I think it's just going to allow for more individuality for businesses and people, and I think that's what's going to differentiate a lot of businesses from each other. So I think it's an exciting space to be in.
Yeah, so I can say, does that is that good news for you? That sort of development in terms of the positions and the companies that you can ultimately work with.
Yeah, 100%. Like I said, when you say AI, everyone thinks of you sort of um, typical tech sort of companies, but there's AI in everything. There's AI in farming at the moment. There's one startup that's raised a huge sort of series of funding with agriculture over in the States. And that's something that you never piece together, agriculture and AI, but it's happening and it's going ahead. Um, so there's loads of different areas that AI can benefit both people and businesses, and hopefully the wider sort of community and population.
Mhm.
And yeah, at the end of the day, it's people that build the AI, it's people that build these workflows that make it easier for everyone else. And I think the main goal is to remove sort of tedious tasks for people.
Yeah.
The more you can get rid of the mundane, the more we can focus on what actually makes a difference, whether it's selling,
Mm.
pitching, whether it's creating art, videos, editing videos, whatever it might be. I think that's where we want to be spending our time. So yeah, I think it's definitely an exciting space, and I think the more we can apply it, like you mentioned, the more opportunities and more doors that open for myself, which is obviously a huge bonus.
Yeah.
It's something that I can't complain about at all.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And there is, I imagine, a huge amount of demand. That's what I said. The hook at the beginning is straight from your website, your LinkedIn. In terms of it is difficult to find the right engineer to
Mm.
complete a particular job, and that is creating a lot of bottlenecks for a lot of companies, right? I guess a good question for you is, how do you differentiate yourself from, yeah, other tech recruiters, or even from people just going direct onto online PH or Fiverr, those
Mhm.
websites where people can just go and find technicians, engineers. How do you set yourself apart? And I suppose, how are you better than that?
Yeah, of course. Like I said, recruitment has been done before. So there's a
Yeah.
lot of things that are similar or the same. But I think where it sets itself apart is my focus is on founders and helping them build something for the long term. A lot of
Mm.
people, they look at startups and they think it's, they put a monthly timeline on it. They're not there for the long run, that sort of thing.
Mm.
And there's also a lot of things to consider. When it's a company already with 200 people, an additional hire doesn't really change much. But if you're a company with 3 or 4 people and you add one more person in, you could essentially change the entire culture of the team just with that one singular hire, which sounds sometimes a little bit maybe over the top, but when you're in that environment, when you're working in day out, face to face, and it's just the 5 of you, it very much is the case. And I think the main thing is that it's not just a hire of one person; it's more so the cultural fit with the business. Every founder has a vision in their head of where they want to be, whether it's, they want to be a unicorn with billions, whether they want to exit, wherever it might be, the journey that they want to go on. They all have that sort of vision in their head. And to get to that vision, they want to stick to a certain set of principles, values, whatever you want to call it. They'll have a mission in mind, etc. And I think uh, the bigger challenge is finding a fit, not just for, because we can all say, "Oh, can you do this, and this? Do you have this certificate? Do you have this qualification?" That's fine. We can all just put that on paper and get someone filled into a vacancy. But I think it's more so aligning with a bigger mission value and goal, having that same or similar enthusiasm as the founder when you're sort
Yeah.
of getting stuck in. Because in the founding space, any obviously founder will tell you with the startup, it's not a typical 9 to 5. You're not going to get the same sort of benefits, but you're going to get other pros that aren't there in a typical sort of well established business. Um, and it's finding that key fit to where it aligns. It's not for everyone, and that's 100%, that's more than fine. But there are people that will benefit from a system where it's a little bit more agile, a little bit more fast paced. You're going to learn a lot very quickly. So that's why I find, especially for younger people, it's a great place to be because you're sort of thrown in the deep end and kind of have to figure it out. And I think that's a great for developing your skills, your personality, etc., and moving your career forward. But yeah, I think the differentiator is it's not just oh, here's a candidate, let's fill that vacancy, and then be on our way. It's more so aligning with that business, that startup, that company, their values, their mission, really aligning with that, and then finding the particular fit for that sort of growth mindset and being someone that's going to be establishing the team for hopefully years to come.
I think that's where a more valuable recruiter comes into place, a more mature, more valuable recruitment company, where they're not just filling roles, but they're also taking that consultative approach in
Mhm.
helping the company to grow. Because essentially, if you're hiring, it's because you're growing. You
Yeah.
need those positions to grow and expand the business, and you are a tool with which to help the company to achieve their growth targets.
Yeah, 100%. And I always say to myself, reminding myself and my team, it's more so, you're not just, like you mentioned, filling that vacancy. You're almost a business consultant in terms of, where they want to go and the growth that they want to see and the things that they want to achieve. Want to align with the strategies that they have. And yeah, some of the targets that they want to hit, the milestones, etc. You want to anticipate certain issues that might come ahead of time. You want to plan ahead of time. So it's more so you're a consultant across the board for the wider business, not just, oh, let me fill this vacancy. Because with, like I mentioned, every single hire, it determines the culture, and that determines how quickly or how well the team works together, how quickly and how well products are released. So I think it's very important that, the fit is right for what they need. And it, like you mentioned, a lot more consultative in terms of the wider business, not just that singular vacancy.
Yeah, yeah, no, very well said. And the what would you say the misconceptions are for companies, especially within the the tech SaaS space, that maybe they're a newly established startup, or they haven't been running for for that long, they're experiencing growth, they've suddenly realized, oh, we need to hire people. I've never done this before. They come across yourself. What are those sort of initial pushbacks or misconceptions that you see from new partners?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is obviously so I guess you could say coming from more typical recruitment firms where it's, it's sort of a transactional sort of interaction where it's just, oh yeah, we have this candidate pool, you have a vacancy, let's fill it and then be on our way, that sort of thing. And I think that founders at startups are unsure or sort of almost scared that this recruitment partner isn't going to understand their business or take the
Mm,
time to understand their business and the wider sort of mission and goals that they have. It's something that I come across where it's just like, obviously we want them to be able to do this, whether it's, certain qualifications that they have or maybe a portfolio of things that they've produced, but we also need this. And it's usually things like work ethic, it's things like enthusiasm and commitment. It's
yeah.
these sort of things that they're also sort of keen on. And it sort of plays in the back of their head that those things aren't going to be satisfied with the candidates that are put forward. And obviously, you totally understand that because, like I mentioned, a lot of them, with these larger teams, there it's more transactional. With you got a vacancy, let's fill it straight away. We've got a warm candidate, they'll do the job. Sort of shake hands and then be on their way. Um,
Mm,
so that I think that's a big misconception. Sorry, it's something that like I mentioned, we take a lot of time in sort of understanding the business and where they want to be, and understanding, more sort of a character fit, as opposed to sort of the academic or the qualifications fit, for the vacancy. So I think that's the main one that we come across.
yeah, and because at the end of the day, when you think about it with recruitment, uh, potentially for both the company and the candidate, if you get that right, if you get that match right, and it sticks, it can be it should always be a win-win for both, right? It should
Hmm.
be that the company experiences the growth, they get the right expertise because they found the right position that's helping them to get where they want to be, and for the candidate, hopefully they've fallen into a company that values them, of which they can have development and growth, personally and professionally themselves, right? If that's something that that person is looking for as well, right? And when both align together, then and you've made that happen, then that shows the value of recruitment and the work that you do. I guess, Tan, a good question would be, from the clients, from the candidates you've worked with, could you maybe elaborate a little bit on a kind of a success story that you've had from working with a particular client or candidate?
Of course, yeah. I think I'd go back to the initial one with my friend that I helped out. Again, this was before Initium Talent was really an idea in my head. Is more so me just helping out a friend. But I guess it's
Yeah.
the best one in terms of the impact because, especially with these startups, it can take a few years before anything is sort of quantified in regards to like goals and achievements and progress. A lot of them will be working sort of in the background or in stealth mode, they like to call it sometimes, where things aren't really released and things like that. But essentially, my friend was working on an AI for note taking and voice memos,
Hmm.
and how that integrates with sort of note taking apps and things like that. And yeah, essentially, obviously, he had the startup, and we filled the initial vacancies for the founding engineer and also the founding sort of account executive. So, sort of the sales drive and bringing that to market and making that sort of a profitable product. So obviously we had a discussion with my friend in regards to what he was looking for. He had some things that, he didn't really want to budge on, things like, being in person. Obviously he's based in the San Francisco area. So that was big for him because he wanted to be able to collaborate face to face sort of every single day of the working week. So that was very important to him. He didn't really care too much about qualifications or if they'd been to university. He just wanted to see what they had built in the past. So having obviously a valid portfolio and also just having that work ethic and that sort of hustle culture. If you're like someone that'll be able to grind longer hours, especially in the early days when they're trying to build something, hopefully waiting for that payoff later on. Yeah, and essentially, obviously, we digged around for candidates. We placed a few into interviews, and we got a couple of successful placements in there, which was great for us. And obviously, he loved them. They've been working obviously every single day since then. And recently, just in the summer, just gone, they announced that they had received an additional sort of 5 investors from Europe. So obviously, a lot of the investors had been from the American market, and they had backed the product and obviously what they were doing. But he had pitched to some extra investors, and this is the first sort of additional funding that he had sort of tried to get besides the initial funding from when they had kicked off. And once he had yeah, so I put the pitch and proposal, obviously, to demonstrate the products that they had built and how it worked, how it integrated into other existing sort of apps and workflows. They attained additional funding, which obviously just kicks off the next step of growth for them.
Yeah.
And yeah, they've just come in recently. Obviously, they're looking to hire more sort of C-suite level people. He's come across to myself. They're looking for that next step, essentially. Sort of getting into market and again making it a lot more profitable and a lot more feasible as a product, and basically ensuring it's a business now.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's obviously really exciting for him. He's essentially gone from that first sort of milestone to that next one now, and that's shown in terms of he now needs a larger team. He wants to expand the team and build on the current success he's had, which is obviously super exciting for me. Not just because obviously he's my friend and obviously that's that relationship, but that's the first sort of involvement that we had, and obviously it's led to huge success, not both for him but for myself as well, because
Yeah.
obviously it's resulted in a recurring client for me. So that's a huge
Yeah.
win for me, especially being early days just in myself, but also he's early days as in his startup. So for two younger sort of founders, if you like, in the space, both having huge success, that's something that obviously is super exciting for me.
Yeah, absolutely. It's complete, and it's validation of your system, your process, your
Yeah.
work, right? In being able to create that success for someone else, right?
Mhm.
That's amazing. How I suppose how do you you mentioned obviously you are a younger founder. You're early in the game with Initium. I suppose how do you get your name out there to more people, right? To create more success stories.
Yeah, obviously it's it's a very difficult space. It's very saturated. Everyone's posting on LinkedIn. Everyone's running ads, whatever it might be. It's very
Mm,
hard to the opportunity is there obviously to get out there and do it, but everyone's obviously seems to be doing it, so it's hard to differentiate yourself. And I think the big thing is to offer value before you ask anything of a potential client, whether
yeah.
it's like with today we're doing a podcast, or whether it's a webinar or a free workflow or whatever it
Mm,
might be. Offer something for free before the candidate even has to say, or the client even has to say yes, I think is a big
mm,
thing. Just because it builds trust, builds value, also just shows that you know what you're talking about. You're not some sort of scam artist or anything like that, because again, that's another prevalent thing. But yeah, I think building value and building trust between yourself and potential or preferred clients is a big thing. There's obviously various ways you can do that. Some that I've mentioned, other ways, you can provide webinars, whatever it might be. You can provide little reports for people in your space or your preferred sort of client type.
mm.
There's various ways to do it, but I think, the big thing is to build that trust, build that value, position yourself as someone who's an expert so that when someone comes across you or your business, they know exactly what you do and they know exactly what they're going to get from you. That's still something that I'm trying to, etch in today. Like I said, I'm very early doors, so that's something I'm working on day to day. But I think it's a big thing when it comes to establishing yourself as a key player in your space.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It takes persistence and sort of a practice in different ways, right? I
Mm.
said this literally yesterday. It's not practice makes perfect; it's perfect practice makes perfect. But it's finding
Mhm.
that perfect, finding what works, right? It needs you, especially when you're in the early days. And I think for a founder at any point, really, to always understand they need to iterate, you need to change, you need to try things in different ways and see
Mhm.
what moves the needle, right?
Yeah.
Where that sweet spot, exactly is. And there's actually, when it comes to AI, that's quite an interesting kind of notion because I'm a big believer that AI, is in that way. A lot of people use AI in not as an effective way as they possibly could, right?
Mhm.
But I'm interested from your perspective as putting a recruitment hat on.
Mhm.
How have you seen the impact of AI on the recruitment space, on the sort of day to day activities?
Yeah, I think obviously, again, like you mentioned, a lot of people scared about AI. We mentioned it before; it's going to take people's jobs, etc. And recruitment is, not exempt to that. A lot of people are saying, AI is just going to replace your recruiter, and you won't need anyone there for you. Um, And obviously, I understand the scare, but I think again, if you look in history, even when LinkedIn launched, people were saying, "Oh, recruitment is at risk here because LinkedIn has
Mm,
access to all these potential candidates. You can post a job listing, they'll apply, and you just hire them straight away. You don't need a recruiter for that." But obviously, we've seen that that's not the case. Um, and I think that AI can definitely supplement recruiters. And I think it just goes back to that what we most need and what makes us most efficient and effective is if we automate the mundane and the more tedious tasks, um, and utilize AI's sort of time saving skills and things like that to make our lives as recruiters a little bit easier. At the end of the
Mm,
day, people buy from people, and I'm a strong believer in that. And I think a human interaction goes a long way, especially in this day and
yeah.
age when you're on the phone to AI bots just for customer service and things like that. I think it's a big player when it comes to that human interaction. And I think emotion plays a lot into that as well. But yeah, I think for myself, obviously, I've adopted AI into a lot of my workflows. Um, and it's more so, again, for the tedious tasks, whether it's, reaching out to potential candidates just for that initial call or email to see if they're interested, whether it's
Mm,
searching or doing outreach for potential candidates using AI. I found it a lifesaver in regards to time saving and things like that. You can just pop in a job description, what you're looking for in terms of experience, some of the skills or certifications that they might have, where they're based,
mm,
etc. Some of their previous roles, and the AI can almost filter through everything, find candidates
mm,
that you wouldn't even normally find on sort of LinkedIn, Sales Navigator, or other sort of outreach tools that are more traditional. So I find it really great in that aspect. But I don't think it's going to go as far as replace you. And like I said, I think there's always going to have to be a person involved. Um, I just think that AI is going to supplement the more tedious tasks and make us a little bit more efficient, a lot more quicker, allow us to
mm,
scale a lot more better as well. So I think that's
mm,
the way it's going to go. And I think obviously it's just going to continue to develop. There's already AI recruitment tools out there in the space, some that I'm using, which are great, and they're only going to get better. So I think it's a good place to be, especially if you're someone who really likes to be efficient with their time and wants to get things done quickly. Another thing in the recruitment space is turnaround. Someone could come to me today and be like, "Oh, I've got a vacancy," and they want it filled. Obviously as soon as possible, because as soon as they're hired, the quicker they can kickstart on what they want to do and grow the business. So if I can improve that turnaround time using AI, then it's a win-win. And again, it differentiates me from the rest.
yeah. There's two key words I think stick out to what you said there. One is speed,
Mm.
right? And that's what AI can potentially do and is doing within a lot of industries is allowing businesses to operate at a faster pace, right? So they
Mhm,
can pick up more market share. They can deal with the same quality, but at a faster pace, which everyone likes, right?
mhm,
And the other one is trust, right?
mhm,
Recruiters are built upon trust with candidates, trust with their clients.
mhm.
I guess good question for you is what do you think what's the biggest pain you think that AI could remove for recruiters in general
Um,
that maybe it hasn't quite done yet or you haven't seen yet?
I guess I guess it could more so for like the candidate outreach, um, and aligning that with the client requirements could be something that's improved on. I think there's always tends to be a little bit of miscommunication in regards to what clients can be looking for and what candidates can be looking
Mm,
for. And I think AI could potentially, offer solutions in that regard, whether it's automated outreach that sort of qualifies candidates a lot better for what you're looking for. Because even currently, the AI tools, obviously, you can put in you know, whatever you're looking for, but you'll always have to manually sift through and make sure that obviously everything matches to exactly what you need. And I
mm,
think it's just that next step to the point where you put in what you need, you type it in plain English and it just comes through with exactly what you're looking for. I
yeah.
think that's the next step just to make it as efficient as possible. Because, yeah, like I mentioned at the moment, it still requires manual sort of sifting through and ensuring just double checking that everything matches exactly what the clients are looking for.
Yeah.
But I think AI, and I think it will get there where it takes that next step. It gets a little bit smarter, a little bit more intelligent when it's sifting through potential candidates, and aligns exactly with what you're looking for. It's not the biggest pet peeve, like I said, obviously, it's just going through certain candidates and finding that. But I think AI could definitely solve that, and I think that's probably is the next step for a lot of these AI tools, especially in this space.
Very interesting. Yeah, yeah, brilliant. Well, I mean, Tan, going forward, what's in the pipeline for yourself and Initium talent?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's exciting times, and they often say December is one of the best months for startups to receive funding,
Mm,
especially in comparison to the rest of the year. So I'm excited to see what comes through in regards to So obviously, Y Combinator is the biggest one in America as a startup accelerator. Seeing what they back in the American market and seeing some of the products that come through there. I'm also we're looking to get more involved with the European space. The Nordic sort of region has really been exploding recently in that space, and it's been really exciting some of the things that they're seeing. So I really want a stronger foothold in the Europe area, in the UK area. Currently working with another startup accelerator in the UK. They have about 9 or 10 companies in their portfolio. So we're doing the hiring across those, which is, again, is super exciting. They're doing a lot of high level C-suite hires on there, which will be exciting to see, just because I want to see obviously how those companies play out and where they go. So it's always super exciting because you're at the start of a journey of something that's going to be amazing. In my head, obviously, I've only been doing this for a little while, but some of the companies like Stripe or Scribe, etc., who are some of the big players now in their relevant spaces, being a part of something like that from the beginning would just be so exciting to look back on, being like, oh, they're worth billions now, but we were there when they were, just starting early doors. And I just hope that for myself and some of the companies and clients that I work with, see, fingers crossed for them, wishing them all their success and stuff like that. But it's just great to be a part of that journey, especially early doors.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And that, I mean, honestly, that's what you've seen with your friend so far, right?
Yeah.
And it's just a matter of time, right? It's
Mhm.
the more clients that you're working with, the chances are
Mhm.
some of those are going to get to that, to that point, and
Mhm.
then you will be able to look back and say, well, that was partly because of me that
Mhm.
they've experienced that kind of growth and success.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess Tan, a sort of last sort of shout out. I mean, who is an ideal client or candidate that perhaps they're listening to this podcast, that you would like to have reach out to yourself?
Yeah, I mean, there's a few, and obviously, the current space has been really exciting. There's a few that I've seen. There's one Lexi over in America. They're a legal AI sort of tool for lawyers and stuff up and down the country. Um, they've been really exciting. They've been backed as one of the more exciting startups in their sort of batch over at YC, which yeah, super exciting. And I know they're expanding and growing. So they'd be a great company to work with. I think it's a space that's really important and could really have a lot of advancement, especially in the AI space. Again, with those more tedious, more mundane tasks that can be automated. Um, so yeah, they're really exciting, and that's someone that I'd love to work with. Yeah, but fingers crossed we'll get through to them.
Brilliant, brilliant. Well, I mean, Tan, I suppose a few sort of takeaways for myself from this conversation. I'd say one, if you're within this sort of SaaS tech space, I definitely say you can try and hire yourself, but if you want to experience better success, you need to go to a specialist such as yourself, to really get those needs, get the qualified members of staff, and get that culture fit as well, right? Which that's something that's probably overlooked within the tech SaaS world, is that you're still hiring for culture, right? If you want a candidate to stick and stay there and have a future and help grow the company to where it should be, right?
Yeah.
So definitely engage in a professional recruitment service like Initium Talent, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. Number two, I would say speed and trust, right? That's where we're going with AI, right? Whether you're using AI yourself or not, whether you're engaging with a recruitment agency that's using AI or not, speed and trust is important. You need to maintain that trust with clients, and the faster that you're able to get rid of those tedious tasks,
Mhm.
the better,
Yeah.
right? But amazing insights, Tan. I suppose the last really good question is, for anyone wanting to reach out, what's the best contact details to get you on?
Yeah, so obviously you can look me up on LinkedIn at Initium Talent, or reach out as Tanveer Chowdhury on there. And you can just email me, tanveer@initiumtalent.com. I'm always open to having a chat and discussion, or a quick call to book it into our calendar. And we can see obviously what requirements you have, hopefully come up with a long-term solution to fix any problems or solve any issues that you might be having.
Yeah, yeah. And, just to reiterate that probably last insight as well that you said quite clearly is, you're not just a recruiter just to fill a position. You're interested in seeing the growth of the company, such as,
Mhm.
what you've experienced with your friends.
Mhm.
And, for anyone that truly wants growth, truly wants success, then work with partners, work with Tan,
Yeah.
essentially, to get there. Amazing insights, Tan. Thank you so much
Yeah,
for
thanks for
joining
having
the
me.
podcast today.
No, thank you for having me. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Brilliant. And thank you everyone for listening. Please like and share this video so we can get this message out to as many people as possible. Thank you.